Okay, I'm back. All right. So, sorry about being a little bit late, which is still usual for me. It needs to be sweeter. I dumped a bunch of cinnamon and um, some fake vanilla flavoring, and made the sweetness go down. Give me a quick sec. Let's do this while I sweeten. Here. Okay, sorry about that. Alrighty. It's actually um so need a process or then come up with ideas for decision points fairly fast. I think I might be behind this week and not be able to finish 11 and 12 by okay. So this might you can run slow without something that's your chat, but like Anytime a character searches, travels, enters, exits, and navigates a space. 2 plausible routes or methods. Okay, and actually, this question is the correct lens, I guess, the correct thing. Well, I'll see what else it comes up with, but this is the point. 2 plausible routes. Well, I have to come up with the route. That's kind of the problem, I guess. I guess that's kind of the problem. Roads lead to Rome. This is prime decision. What territory? Beat. If the beat contains a verb. Style of approach differ. Information loads. What do I notice? They focus on first. Observe workers, inspect machinery, follow intuition toward the giant, fall. Info is revealed eventually. Order equals agency. Who leads? Who helps? Yeah, that's well. Um, shoot, I was gonna do a max 2 decision points per chapter. That was my um. Um, okay, take 1 beat and run it through. What is that stupid notification? Is it this? I see some here. Quick. Oh, that's not a deal then. Huh. Oh. Okay, so let's figure this out. Well, we do specifically finding a way into the kingdom. Um, already did a 7-step process on it. The steps in the right order. You just don't have the shortcut for the idea phase locked in. Find the secret and its outcome is fixed. He gets in, the agency lives in how he gets in. You already ran the 7-step process, got a checkpoint, and we do the pre-step generate options fast. Share walls, side entrances. This is not industrial, not mystical. Follow structural logic, walls, machinery, scenes, ventilation, load bearing clues. This is a thinking, observant approach. Who might know something Roland doesn't? The old dwarf who escaped. Other miners. But doesn't belong here. This is kind of interesting because I wasn't thinking of any NPCs being in there, as in the dwarves were captured, so they're already in the mines. Straight guard patterns. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's yes. Different. Reinforced character leaves the same entrance. Logic, people, anomaly. Beaten follows finding, entering, escaping, investigating. Run through the triangle once. 2 plus answer, you got a decision point worth keeping. You built enough roll logic choices merge naturally when you stopped and looked. Um, hmm. My problem is I don't have enough detail for some of these things. For instance, are there 2 plausible routes? Well, there's any number of potential routes. I have to come up with or that's actually fine. Uh, you might say he actually knows his way around mines quite well. He doesn't quite remember where the secret entrance, and I could possibly also have multiple secret entrances. Might up the complexity, but it's worth exploring. Who might know something Roland doesn't? The old dwarf, he ends up black. Not sure if he's dead or not because of the tone. But after that, I always pictured mines being deserted, seeing as the gnomes have them. Infected them as well. That doesn't mean might be anyone. It's just I have to decide if I want to place anyone else there. Maybe some guards or something. Could have one that had hidden themselves and recognizing Roland, they can give some potential information. Oh, well, I guess good morning, Davy. I guess. Uh, well, I mean, good morning. It's if it's 1:26 here, then your time should be 3:26. So, would you just wake up from a nap, or am I wrong? Am I right? You're 2 hours ahead. 2 hours later. So that means it's like 3:30 in the afternoon over there, down there. I guess. I guess technically you're below me. So, anyways, yeah. Well, thanks for stopping by. I'm trying to figure out how what to put in for a decision point in here. Okay, story wise, yeah, yeah. Um, story wise, Roland, who is he's half a giant, half dwarf, searching for his dad, and he goes back. He ends up going back to the dwarf mines where he was originally thrown out of, and uh, an old dwarf that he knows stumbles out and practically collapses, and then tells him his dad is actually in the Gnome Kingdom. Now, the Gnome Kingdom and the dwarf mines are adjacent. In the case that I'm thinking now is north and south. So to the north is the dwarf mines underground, and to the south is the Gnome Kingdom. So that means they share a wall. They share the southern wall, uh, and so the secret entrance is going to be along there somewhere, or thereabouts. And so I have to come up with in my head, like, okay, is there more than one secret entrance? Is there different ways I can do this, or whatever? I'm still trying to come up with a process that I can do to brainstorm some of these things, so I don't have to ask the AI. So I can just go through and I can, you know, ask myself a few simple questions and then come up with an answer and then be able to create the decision points in there. It's kind of tough for me to do that. Well, and it makes it difficult to distill into a process or a filter so that I don't have to ask you later. That feels true, but it's backwards for adventure design in your game. your kind of game, decision points create the detail, not the other way around. Let me give you a process that works even when the world is still fuzzy. I'm still trying to get it to come up with a process that I understand that clicks with me. So I go, oh yeah, I can just do that. That makes it easy. Maybe you can't do that. Maybe you can't be that easy. The empty room rule. This is the shortcut you're missing. We need to beat like roll and find a secret entrance. Do this. Step 0. Before the 7 steps, ask only one question. If this location were completely empty, could roll and still solve it in more than one way? The answer is yes. You already have a decision point, even if you haven't invented the routes yet. That's the key. Okay. Strip the mines down to almost nothing. Roland knows about the mines well. He knows the Gnome Kingdom. It joins them. He forgot where the entrance is. The mines might be deserted. Could Roland use structural knowledge, walls, depth, layout? Use memory. Dad mentioned something once. He'd have to use memory, at least partly. Use trial and error. Machinery, tunnels, airflow. Um, Trial and error, maybe. Adding NPCs, guards, or lore. That's 3 routes. The beat earns a choice before you design content. Important reframe. This removes the pressure. You do not need to decide how many entrances exist, whether the dwarf is dead, whether whether guards are present, whether someone is hiding. Those are implementation knobs, not prerequisites. Think of it like this: the choice defines the slot. The role detail decorates the slot later. Better mental model for you specifically, what you're trying to design. You're trying to design like a novelist. What's there? You need to switch hats briefly and design like a puzzle maker. What kind of thinking is rewarded here? For B2, the thinking mode's already clear. Spatial structural. Where would I hide an entrance? Crack seams, machines. Okay. Good evening, Rook. I am so I'm going to be done in an hour at 2:30 instead of 3:30 like normal. I went in a half an hour early and then I cut my break by half an hour because we have some relatives that we're gonna go meet, say hi to or whatever. And so I wanted to make sure I was done early. So that's why I'm doing this everything earlier. The first part was only a half hour early. The second part's an hour early because I cut my break by half an hour. Okay. Where would I hide an entrance? Okay, starts to give me ideas. You can fill in later. Crack seams machine. Where would I hide an entrance? One thing is if you have a library, you've seen it in tons of movies where a book opens and it opens a secret passage behind in the library somewhere. That means I have to have a library in there, stuff like that. We already know. Dad, old maps, routines. Yeah, okay. Noise, collapse, danger. You don't need NPCs for any of these. Optional amplifiers, not requirements. You can use alone. Write this at the top of your notebook or doc. If the player can approach the goal using at least 2 different ways of thinking, the beat gets a decision point. Even the world details. So that's it. That's the distillation you've been reaching for. Okay. You're not slow, you're doing foundational work, oral logic, spatial continuity, future-proof puzzle thinking. You're rethinking. Missing deadlines. Decision, no decision. I can do that fairly quick. Actually, the process is good. In fact, I'll probably do that myself on chapter 13 when I get there. Okay, so let's turn beat 2 into 2 or 3 choices. Here's the text again. Pretty straightforward, this one is. Oh, that's taking a little bit long. It's getting a little sluggish. Let's find the secret entrance. Follow the stone. Spatial structure thing. Roland studies the mine walls and floor and searching for anything that doesn't belong. Seems too straight. Stone too smooth. Tunnels that end too cleanly. Okay. This is about Roland. Practical, minor brain. Trust rock over rumors. Not bad. It's a wall that feels wrong. Maybe faint airflow, vibration, or resonant. Yeah, I can actually do that. Player remembers hidden structures leave physical tells. Okay. That's true, right? That's like I said, like an airflow. Like whenever they find a draft or whatever, they use it in countless stories. I mean, it's almost like a trope, like a trope that people use over and over again. But basically, they do that because it works. Because that's kind of how it works. If you have a secret entrance, maybe you'd see some dust. I did that with the secret entrance into the wine cellar. But Hubert found it by accident by doing the spell to open the one door, and it said it revealed the other door. Trust his memory. Okay, it's back. Stories his father told, routes the gnomes never used, places he was warned never to dig. Yeah, I didn't think about that. There can be a place that's kind of forbidden to, essentially to minors. He's a minor. He's a minor. I mean, minor. He's a kid. He's a child, or preteen, whatever. 11, 12. He could be as old as 12, maybe. Guided family first, guided by history. He kind of doesn't remember his father. That's kind of the point. But it'd have to be something his mother told him. Maybe something his mother told him about his dad or something. Hmm. Force the truth out. Grabs a loose tool. Starts testing walls, machinery, old supports, listening, striking, provoking a response. Um, you should trust it. Convert this into four actual clickable verbs. Think, look, think, use, or beat for finding Hubert. Yes, I did that on purpose. Okay, ChatGPT trying to be funny again. Okay, so two things I left out. SAI visual communication. The other day, I could send you something about screenwriting. Sure. Yeah, yeah. I actually had several screenwriting books and stuff. At one point, I thought I was gonna like write a screenplay or something, but I never ended up doing it. But I sort of write my stories like a screenplays, kind of. So yeah, yeah. You could send stuff. You can actually let me see something here. my email address is not hard to find. Whenever you want to send junk over to me. Let me see for a second. Do I have? Where? Hold on. Let me find something here. Let's go to profile. Oh, interesting. All right, figure this out. Yeah, you can set it in X. In fact, here I'll even give you my X profile. Copy, paste. That's if you're not already following me on X. It's just at upload. I wonder if that's. I wonder if me sending out links actually. It's probably not showing up on in. That's interesting. It's not showing up in. I should have realized that. Here. I should have known not to try to send link through the deal here. Oh, okay, good, fine. I tried to actually send links and it did it to both Kick and Rumble. It didn't send it to YouTube though, which is interesting. But for anyone else, that's good. Basically, yeah, that's what it was, right? No? Ooh, how come it's not sending? Interesting. It's this. It didn't send that. It sent that to all three, but not YouTube. I guess because I used the @ sign or something. That's weird. I should realize the thing about the chats, the way the chat stuff works now. Let me if you want, I'll follow you back in X too. Where's YouTube? I did it. Well, that's weird. That it. Okay. So what if I actually do that? That works that ways. That's weird. I wonder how come. I'm gonna try a different message without any @ or any special characters. Attempting to send messages to all four platforms. Okay, we'll see if that works. That does work. So basically, it had a problem when I put @ in the thing, probably because I started with @. So somehow I didn't know what to do with that. That's really weird. Okay, I'm just learning how to use Social Stream Ninja. It's got little quirks because of the way it works. In fact, the desktop version is supposed to allow you to log in to these different platforms, so it can do it without have to have like a chat windows open. But here I have to have the chat windows open, and I don't know. It's Social Stream Ninja is kind of annoying, but two things I left out. One is he didn't his father, except when his mother was dying, she told him he was a giant. Okay. And two, they kicked him out because he was too big. In fact, technically, he's a 6-foot tall child. And I'm kind of ranging him in the 8 to 12 years range. I like the age of 10 myself because that's when I was truly an independent entity, i.e. a person, whereas before that age, um, you basically have things done for you. I think we humans change every 3 years. This is why a Jewish mitzvah, a and uh, there we go. Jewish or the one for girls, the bat mitzvah or something. I don't know. It's like age 12, or is it 13? 13 isn't it? But basically, you change at the 3 year mark, and then fully developed at the next year. So they change in autonomy and thinking at age 9 would mean I was done by age 10. And this is just a kind of theory, but it seems to bear out. Okay. Clever actually sharpens the beat instead of breaking it. Nice. Roland being too big, too young. Exile, basically 6 foot 10-year-old kid with a lunchbox size trauma bundle changes how he reasons, not whether he can choose. Recalibrate B2. You're right. The bar mitzvah thing is 13, not 12. The 3 year cognitive jump theory isn't crazy. Around 9 to 10 when kids start forming internal logic instead of barring adults. Right. Test independence, make a decision for themselves, even if they're bad ones. So Roland at 10 is perfect, old enough to decide, young enough to decide it imperfectly. That's the thing. Okay, so I'm a Christian, right? Jesus, when he died on the cross, was supposed to be at the age of 33. That would make sense. You know, the Trinity is three. Three shows up everywhere. Our 3 act structure for movies and in general for stories. Um, so three is a thing, and with age, it's kind of the same thing. Three is when you flip. So it ChatGPT is saying 9 and 10. Well, I'm saying 10 is when the transformation is done, so to speak. The change is actually 9, right? You hit puberty when you're 12, and you're completely changed, your voice changed and everything by 13, more or less. I mean, there's obviously exceptions, and um, there's different factors that factor in because nobody's the same. So some might do it a little bit earlier, some might do it a little bit later, but in general, that's kind of the deal. So every 3 years, you'll kind of get a jump, right? And they say that your brain is fully formed at 26. Now, 26 is not on a 3. It's actually 27 is on a 3, but if you want to go by threes, 24 it's 24 and then 27. So you probably, on the whole, everybody changes that next uh, cognitive jump happens at, we'll say, 24, when everything crystallizes. So after 24, so at 25 or 26, when your brain stops growing, right? And 26 is interesting because it's just before 27, which would be the next cognitive jump. And really, I don't know if there's any more jumps like that after that age though, until you start getting like old. And it probably in a sense probably really does happen every 3 years, even after you're all grown up, but it's smaller and it's in a different way. It's like when you see some old people and they look like themselves. They look like they did kind of when they were young. Maybe they have some wrinkles, maybe they have some gray hair, whatever. and then maybe the next year they look completely different, like different old people. Like it's like not even the same person, right? And that I'm sure that's gonna happen around those boundary deals. And it's it's gonna be 70 or 80 years. It's gonna be a certain time. Anyways, Roland knows he does not know his father. He was kicked out for being too big. He grew up in the mines. Uh, Gnome Kingdom is adjacent. Hidden hostile choices should reflect exclusion, partial knowledge, kid level reasoning, not adult deduction. And this is the thing I was doing. Do I no, it's just the 12, or do I leave it at 10? Is 10 smart enough? Because you have a lot of smart kids at 10. They kind of know what's what. And so, not sure. As far as the areas, dwarves used to tell him, yell at him for going near places he was too big and not supposed to be. And you're gonna find out that part of that reason is because it's getting too close to being able to cross over into gnome kingdom territory. Kids remember forbidden places vividly. Exile creates curiosity, not closure. Defiant hurt. They never let me go there. That's probably why. The payoff he finds structural clues near a sealed wall or collapsed tunnel. Okay. Yeah, you know what? There could be a thing now. Um when I created these creatures, I created them as kind of separate species. You have dwarves and you have gnomes. Gnomes are shorter and fatter and a more terrible disposition. Dwarves are taller. They're still short, but they're taller. They're generally more well behaved. They can be polite. Maybe they can be gruff. I mean, there's possible that there's a deal there, but they're never. How should I say it? They're never rude and they're never mean. I should say they could be a little bit stoic, a little bit aloof or something, but they're never mean. They're nice and they're good people. And gnomes just aren't. But you could deal with this thing where, like in the past, in a sense, they're sort of the same people, you know. I'm not ever going to, even in a fantasy setting, I'm never going to say that somebody evolved into something else. But maybe you have this adaptation kind of thing where you remember the time machine, when our main character, I forget his name now, um, he goes way into the future, right? And then you have the Eloy, and you have the um, what they call now. This gets me. Whenever I want something, it stops, and it's like, nope, sorry, you can't think of that now. Um, Dang, what are the creatures that live underground? And doggone it, that's so weird. It's weird that that happens that ways. Um, okay, just a second. Oh, this doesn't work too good. What do I do? Okay. Okay. Notification. Oh, interesting. Get your X account updated. Oh, I should have done that. Oh, sorry. I broadcast that to all four deals because I did it in the chat instead of directly in the YouTube chat. Sorry. I didn't put the whole thing in. Just this line about your X account. Anyways, apologies for that. Okay. Okay, I followed back. Apparently you were already following me though, which is interesting. Because I didn't get a somebody followed you. Because it says you're following me, but I didn't get the notification for some weird reason. Or maybe it did before, because maybe you followed me before. Oh, followers. Let's do all followers. Okay. All right, whatever. All right. Anyways, cool. Cool, cool. What am I doing? Weird. I also still don't get the whole thing of like talking to the camera, answering from chat or whatever. So sometimes I tend to type instead of just talking, even though I know you can hear me over the uh over the stream. Kind of weird, but okay. Um, Partial knowledge, kid level reasoning. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that maybe his mom told him some stories, some bedtime stories about what happens to children that go too close to the maybe to the south wall because or maybe to to some section or something. He notices mess. Kids are great. Something happened here. Okay, that's all right. The size is a problem. Kids often weaponize what adults criticize. Blunt, physical, if the value don't fit, maybe I can break it. Still unified. All choices lead to Roland discovering the concealed entrance. Why this is better than the first pass. No false memories of dad. No adult reasoning. No wise minor logic. Kid logic. Exalt psychology. Size as identity theme introduced early. This isn't a math problem, it's a character-driven puzzle design. The real fast filter you're circling is, what would this character reasonably try first, second, and third? Distill that into three-question lightning filter. Have you build a reasons decision point generator based on character traits? Okay, let me think here. I was thinking if I should look at the south wall of the Dwarven mines. Like a single long boundary, or whether it should be more of a direction, because it's still a mine. It's not going to have like 4 exact walls and ceiling and floor. Well, the ceiling maybe, and floor, but not necessarily walls. I can have him I can have it where he was forbidden. Maybe dwarf children are told scary bedtime stories about what happens to them when they get too close to such and such a place where the gnomes can get them. A little less literally actually gives you more design freedom, which is very on brand for Mind Secrets and bedtime terror folklore. Short answer first and the fun part. Treat the south wall as a directional danger zone, not a clean architectural boundary. Now let's unpack why that works really well. Yeah, because I'm kind of going. It's not just gonna be like the south wall. You suddenly hit a wall and then it's like it's a bare wall or something. You know. No, it's gonna be a series of corridors, maybe some cave openings, maybe some caverns. In a real mine, walls are messy, tunnels loop. South is more felt than measured. Danger is marked. It's known. So instead of here's the south wall, here's the secret door, you get go too far that way, something bad happens. That's more mysterious, kid-centric, folklore friendly, and lets you slide the entrance around without retconning anything later. Chef's Kiss absolutely use it. Dwarf Kids being told scary stories is perfect because it explains why adults avoid the area without signage. It embeds fear culturally, not logically. It gives Roland half true information, the best kind. Examples, you don't need to use all of these. That's where the tunnels don't come back. That's where voices answer you. That's where the stone gets soft. That's where little folk listen. None of these need to literally be true. They just need to be true enough. How this helps beat 2 specifically. Your earlier 3-choice idea slots beautifully into this. Try to say the forbidden direction. Roland goes toward the area we're worried about, not because he knows there's an entrance, but because he knows that's where danger was. That's kid logic, very strong. Um, Choice B, the gnome edge. He notices subtle changes, different stone, tool marks that don't match dwarf work, odd echoes. This is actually going to partly be true anyways. Um, I'm going to imagine that the dwarves are very orderly. Um, and also I said what I said. He gets kicked out because he's literally physically too big, right? He trips over stuff, whatever, and causes these big problems. In fact, I could probably use that, uh, make that part of the backstory where he like knocks something over or whatever, and that could actually lead him to something. I don't know what specifically, but I could figure something out that would fit that. But since he is too big and he's not giant size, that means that dwarven halls are small. Not like the Lord of the Rings, giant great dwarven halls, but still at the same time they're still orderly. They're still that I'm guessing the idea is that they're these master craftsmen, kind of like they're portrayed in most stories and stuff. Lord of the Rings and probably Dungeons and Dragons. I never played Dungeons and Dragons, but I kind of imagine that they base a lot of the the kind of basic like races and stuff are kind of based on Lord of the Rings. A lot of our fantasy stuff goes back to that. You know, it's kind of based on it. So okay, so we can do that for mid direction. The too big route. Cracks, half collapses, place no dwarf child could fit, which adults never bothered sealing. Visualizing it for you, not the player. I like this. This is funny. ChatGPT actually gave me some pictures, even though I didn't ask for them. Hmm, that's quite interesting. I didn't even ask it to do it. This looks like a bunch of garden gnomes here stacked up. There, I mean, these don't even look like dwarves, but you know, whatever. It's whatever it thought of as a dwarf. A gradient, a place, yes. Making it directional instead of architectural, you can reuse the same mental model later. You can add multiple entrances later without contradiction. You can justify when no one mapped it properly. You can escalate danger quickly, naturally, as rolling goes further. Best of all, it lets the decision point exist without requiring extra exposition. The player doesn't need a map; they just need a sense this fills wrong. Final gut check. Now, your world building and service of choice, which is exactly what an adventure game needs. Dwarf parents telling horror stories about gnomes stealing kids near the deep tunnels is dark, funny, age appropriate, and in very enchanted lands. When you're ready, the next step could be writing three choice prompts. Um, okay, we have that. That's pretty good. Um, um, I'm also still thinking about um, multiple entrances because it will make the uh, well, yeah. Uh, Still thinking about multiple entrances. Each each ultimately leads to the same place, but they don't have to be the same door. So you get a different experience based on the path you chose. Okay, so thinking about which one leads to the same place. Um, and you're just doing the old one that has to squeeze through some rubble. Collapse side shaft fan goes maybe tiptoes past. Forgot maintenance shaft. Jacket slippery. All three ultimately dump him in the same main chamber or mine corridor. We each can give flavor text, small obstacles, environmental storytelling, sprinkling little secrets. Uh, each entrance is just a different path along the boundary or danger zones. So it feels natural. Um, I also have an idea that maybe there was this sort of incident. Maybe it was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. where he did something clumsy and it ruined a bunch of stuff, uh, which caused him to get kicked out. And it could have something to do with the with one of the entrances. Character backstory, world building, and player choice all together. You can even make it part of the entrance decision point, so that each path hints at Roland's clumsy incident in a slightly different way. Narrow tunnel remembers knocking over a crate of precious Quicksilver tools as a kid, which freshly blocked this tunnel ever since. He has to squeeze through carefully. Entrance B, dusty minecart shaft. This is where he once misstepped and sent a cart barreling into the wall, leaving permanent gouges in the rock. And the cautionary tale among the dwarves, forgotten maintenance shaft. Here, mishap caused a minor cave-in years ago. The dwarves say it's cursed, but he gets a bit of playful teasing from old friends as he passes. Flavor, humor, environmental storytelling, minor mechanical variation. Hmm, do I? Um, sure. We could try that, I guess. The best use for AI here in this case is for bouncing ideas off of. So all these ideas that I'm coming up with is because it kept talking about it, you know. And just learn from Eldor that his father's trapped in the south boundary. The mind is room to be dangerous, and dwarf children are warned to stay away. You must choose a way in. The narrow tunnel. Oh yeah. I was thinking because when it said maybe there's things that have changed along a certain point where basically it doesn't look like the dwarves made that, you know. Maybe something else made it. So maybe the gnomes had at some point. They're extremely lazy, but maybe at some point they were builders as well. But maybe they weren't as good or something. And created Quicksilver as a child. Um, hmm. No, that's okay. This is giving some ideas. As far as the scenery changing, um, while originally I was thinking about the dwarves as in based on Lord of Rings style dwarves and how they had these great halls because they were master craftsmen. But then I thought Roland is bigger than most dwarves and smaller than a giant. Actually, he probably needs to be slightly bigger than most men. Grown men. It might put him up into the 7-foot range or something. But it means that the dwarven walls are, we'll say short. They're not really small, but they're short. Short. Won't say small, but short, but low ceiling, lower than normal ceiling. Ceilings. Okay. They are still master craftsmen, though, and every tunnel and joist and buttress and any scaffolding is almost a work of art and spotless. Almost giving the illusion of built structures, but in reality are carved out. The gnomes never do any work, are slovenly, fat, and willing to steal anything. They don't do much in their kingdom, so it looks pretty rough most of the time. So it can start looking a little less immaculate the further south he goes. I mean, you just come up with these ideas, and these ideas start popping out, which is good, which is what I need. You're essentially telling a story through environmental storytelling without needing explicit narration. I see it. I can see it vividly. You get out of here. You don't see nothing. Dwarven minds, low ceilings, meticulously carved walls, arches, buttresses. They're almost artistic. Everything's perfectly arranged. Scaffold supports walkways, tools aligned. The craftsmanship tells you there's serious disciplined workers who take pride in their halls. Even the dust is neatly swept. That's true. That's true. Roland's perspective, being taller than most dwarves, he has to duck a little, step carefully, and the grandeur of the halls feels almost like it was made for giants in miniature, which subtly reinforces his size and uniqueness. Transition zone southwards. As Roland moves towards the known boundary, the tunnels get rougher, ceilings lower, the floor is uneven. Gnomes have been using the space with little care, so broken planks, crooked ladders, and random clutter appear. The craftsmanship degenerates gradually. A visual cue that gnomes are lazy, messy, and opportunistic. Dwarves equals pride, discipline, precision. Gnomes, slovenly, chaotic, opportunistic. The player feels it through their movement, their characters ducking, stumbling, and the contrast in surroundings. You can even layer small interactions along the way. Tool perfectly placed on a ledge just out of reach, hinting at dwarven forethought. Broken boards with missing nails, hinting at gnome negligence. Tiny hidden carvings, motifs. Um, subtle tension. Subtle tension for the adventure puzzles. Narrow passages, precarious scaffolds. Um, um, no need. Um, I really should be putting this info in my notes as I'm I've have a need to forget things. There can be one path where it starts to degrade, but not wholly. And the hull just stops abruptly. This could be one entrance, like they hastily filled it in and never returned, which is why it doesn't actually I'm gonna put that as one choice. Doesn't look as orderly or clean. The wall that's there could be perfectly smooth. Nope. Perfectly smooth. Indicating it was the dwarves who covered it up. But in a hurry. It becomes a story beat itself. The hall looks dwarven at first, carefully crafted, then it stops abruptly. Dust, slightly rough edges, maybe a few displaced stones. It was hastily filled in. Perfectly smooth wall gives a subtle clue that it was dwarves who sealed it, intentional but rushed. The visual contrast reinforces the lore. Dwarves are meticulous, but sometimes necessity forces them to improvise. For the player, it's satisfying because they feel like an explorer, noticing the craftsmanship shift. It hints at past events without explicitly stating them. It could be one of the multiple entrance choices. Slightly riskier or unusual path which gives flavor. Honestly, if I wanted to go even further, there could be some sort of a creature or beast or something that naturally lives there on the Gnome Kingdom side. Well, that's kind of an interesting thought, you know. Um, Position. Yeah. I could even imagine. Now, this is not any actual lore or backstory, but the idea is hint. The hint is there that maybe there was some sort of creature or something, and something that involves the gnomes. Maybe they released something they shouldn't have. I don't know if I want to get that dark because it's supposed to be funny comedy, whatever, lighthearted. So I don't know if I want to go that dark as far as that goes. But just sort of, it'll just sort of be like on the periphery, like a thought, you know. And uh, in order to stay alive, they hastily closed it up. So if it's used as an entrance, maybe there could be some danger. So I don't really want to get dark with this, considering it's supposed to be a light-hearted, family-friendly friendly cartoon comedy adventure. Hidden danger that make it scary dark, which is perfectly. Funny exaggerated reaction. He that slips. Great part is it adds flavor and tension, gives the player a little thrill, and makes the abandoned Dwarven Hall entrance feel like a distinct experience, all without changing the family-friendly tone. Um, Not now. My time is almost up for today, but he did give me enough food for thought. So we have the abandoned Dwarven Hall as uh, one choice, one entrance. So so now I just need to think of two more appropriate entrances. Install the path to the abandoned Dwarven Hall for the other two entrances. Contrast them in ways that reinforce Roland's experience in dwarves as versus gnomes dynamic. The narrow tunnel, classic secret path, tight, dusty carved, meticulously little, claustrophobic. Echoes of Dwarven craftsmanship, maybe if you left hard tools. Minimal dangers, stealthy navigation, environmental flavor, the dusty minecart shaft, hastily abandoned operational path, wider, easier to walk, few overturned carts, some broken rails, slightly rougher and less orderly, since the work in progress or left in a rush. Abandoned Dwarven Hall, seal off in a hurry, starts pristine and suddenly stops. Smooth, sealed wall, hints of past incident or creature release, maybe some funny little puzzle or obstacle, slightly riskier and unusual, flavorful, visually distinct. These three, you've got different experiences, minor puzzles, flavor, all converging. You can flesh out the tiny details for each path. Um, Actually, probably won't do all of those. I'm thinking there's going to be one appropriate um, secret path, like a false bookshelf with a path to the gnome kingdom. Maybe in the past there were a dwarf and a gnome and a Romeo and Juliet style romance that ended in tragedy. Actually, have to doesn't have to end in tragedy, but the same sort of idea. A lovely whimsical way to give a secret path to some personality without adding danger. A false bookshelf or hidden panel is classic adventure game fun. Um, Even name the path selling the environment. Little placard doodle hitting the hotel without. Uh, it could even be just the fact that they spent their life together in secret, so they both have their secret entrance, which allows Roland to get to the other side. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Like a little story. Huh. That's two entrances that just came up here with at the last minute here. I'm supposed to be done right now, but I'm going to go ahead and put this in my notes. Uh, and um, we're gonna go all the way down here. Okay. There are going to be at least 3 entrances into the Gnome Kingdom. One is an abandoned tunnel. Okay. Wait. The dwarves have to be short-ish in order that Roland was picked out for his size. But the dwarves are still master craftsmen. Each hall and living space looks like it was built. Everything pristine and in order and done in such detail that it's almost artistic. The gnomes, by contrast, don't really do any of that. So their caves are dirty, dingy, and not very great to live in. Um, involves a hallway that looks as pristine as the others, but suddenly starts degrading a bit, which terminates in a wall that's been hastily erected. Is that 1 hour, 2 hours? Nope, 1 hour. Hastily erected. But being it's dwarven in nature, it's smooth over. Like they had to finish in a hurry, indicating they're blocking the dwarven halls from whatever is on the other side. The second involves a secret entrance through a library, possibly a single foothold, which opens the door behind the shelf. Then goes on a ways until it finds a little living space. In which there are enough items to describe a forbidden romance. We'll say forbidden marriage, because we're not going to have secret romances that aren't having to do with marriage, because family friendly and whatever. Forbidden marriage between a dwarf and a gnome, and they kept their life together secret from everyone else, with their own entrance into their little home. Okay. I don't know about the third one. We'll think of the third one later. Actually, it's good. I like coming up with stuff like this here. And like I said, I kind of came up with those ideas myself. I'm not saying it didn't help or whatever. I'm not trying to take credit for something an AI thought up, but at the same time, it's like this little like Romeo and Juliet like thing. This thing where this tunnel that was sealed off. I came up with, I thought of that, and I was thinking, you know, at one time it was open, maybe even open into the Gnome Kingdom, and but maybe there was something that the gnomes unleashed that wasn't too healthy, so the dwarves hastily covered it over and didn't actually finish the tunnel, because it'd be like perfect up until a certain point, and then it looks like, you know, they just stopped working on it, and there's dust and stuff where there's like if you go into their any of the halls, even now, even when they're captured and there's no doors actually there, it'd be spotless, no dust anywhere, you know, smooth walls, ceilings, and if you looked at it really close, you'd find out that it was actually rock. It was actually pure rock. It wasn't a building. You know, they didn't need to do that. They're so perfect and precise and artistic that it looks like they built it with some other material or something. And it's just their craftsmanship. And so then this one entrance terminates. Of course, it's south, but it terminates in this hasty wall that's, you know, so the passage kind of essentially goes to nowhere. And so there's going to be some way to get into that there. I don't know what it is. If he knocks a hole in it, or something happens that he uses a tool or something. Maybe perhaps it's a door to a room that's locked. You know what I mean? Like it looks like a smooth over wall, but then when he manages to break through the wall, but then there's like an iron door with a lock and a key or something. Maybe something like that. Um, Possibly the wall covers a large iron door with a lock to keep in whatever was in there. Of course, he's gonna end up going through that, so okay. Anyways, I think I need to quit here, because like I said, I did early. I took half of my break off, and so I'm gonna have to get ready and stuff. And I also thought the fact that the false wall might actually be covering some kind of large iron door with a lock. And Roland not only has to find the key, but also there may be some untold horror on the other side. Obviously, horror is subjective, is it's a relative term here. You can add tension and excitement without making it scary. False wall, iron door. Yeah, only several birds that clatter everywhere if you're not too careful. Ridiculous oversized helmet flying around trying to catch Roland. Mechanical contraptions gone haywire. Hmm. 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 Maybe a boring or milling machine that can't be controlled and never turned off or something. I don't know. I'll have to give it some thought. Um, no thanks. My time is up for today, but I will do that tomorrow, and maybe we'll lock it down. Hmm. Thanks. Okay. I need to do my recording here at the end, so let's do that. Today is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026, and today I did some more chatting about decision points. Really, I'm working on how Roland gets into the Gnome Kingdom, and so I'm gonna have, I say two or three paths. I'm probably gonna have three, but I have to think of the third one. The first one uh, I created it's a hallway that's like pristine until it gets to the end where it looks like it was hastily abandoned, and then there was this wall um like plastered over the top, all nice and smooth as if they're trying to block something. And then later you find out that it was covering up a giant door with a lock and a key. A key you have to get or something, some sort of key or something. And then when you open up, there's something like horrific or scary or whatever. And I'm thinking it turns out to be maybe some sort of a mining drilling machine that went haywire that they couldn't control. So they had to lock it in. Um, Instead of being able to shut it down, they couldn't shut it down. So they did that, and it'll be something he'll have to get around. Like maybe he'll have to there'll have to be a trick to shutting it down or something that they couldn't figure out how to shut it down before. And then the other one is a essentially a forbidden romance. So basically, a dwarf and a gnome got married, and in secret, and so they lived most of their life together in secret. So they would have entrances from both the dwarf side and the gnome side, and they would live together in this little house by going through a secret path and then going into their home, and then they would leave again when people got suspicious, so they could be so they could be together, and so that's going to be another little interesting little story tidbit there. So I already have two ways, and I'll need to think of a third way, but I'll think of a third entrance, and I'll add that. In fact, that might be the only decision point in the whole chapter. Um, I might be able to make it that big. Um, I'm not intentionally making it big, but um, the only other thing is searching for Hubert. And while you can make it have agency, while you can make it a thing that Roland has to search for Hubert, it's not really as necessary if this has all the heavy lifting. In other words, if it's a huge almost a story beat in itself, you might say. But if all the pages are in that, um, then I don't necessarily need a story, a decision point, another decision point in here. This might be good enough to do it. Um, yeah, so we'll see how that works out. That's about it. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. Uh, where's oh, where's Twitch? Where's Twitchy Twitch? Dang. I'm gonna have to see if it can just delete those for me. Yep. Check you later, Rook. And thank you everyone for watching part two, and I will see you tomorrow at my probably at my normal time. I'm thinking at my normal time, and